I hate to say it, but I'm starting to like these video meetings better than we used to meet live.
Well, don't get used to it. We're getting back to our office soon.
We are recording.
At least the video, I got all my notes, everything right here. I don't have to take them back and forth.
I agree.
More
Yes.
comfortable chairs, snacks.
All right, welcome everyone to the Whitman Finance Committee meeting. It's Tuesday, July 14th, 2020. It's 7 o'clock. We're meeting in virtual platform of Zoom. We have a meeting right now. The only one that is absent is Scott, who did call in to say that he was unable to attend. So we'll just do a quick review of the agenda. Everybody got a copy of it in advance by email. The reserve fund stands at $23,853.37, and that has been adjusted since our last meeting when we had 3 disbursements out of the reserve fund. Public forum is temporarily suspended due to the COVID-19 limitations. If there is something that you wish to get to the Finance Committee, you may certainly email me on my town email, randerson@whitman-ma.gov, or call my home phone 447-4366. Under new business, we have the opportunity, if the committee so desires, to reorganize. We also should talk a little bit about liaison assignments. That sheet needed to be updated at the beginning of this year, so it would be nice if we could get that underway as well. So as far as reorganization goes, we're supposed to do it as soon as practicable after the election, even though we haven't reappointed 3 members who will term will be expiring at the conclusion of town meeting. So we'll talk about that. We have an ATM handout that was drafted by Kathleen. We have an invoice to consider from the Association of Town Finance Committees. Under old business, we just have our place setter for our subcommittee reports. We may discuss warrant articles. Our Article 2, we still have some outstanding votes to make on that. Whitman Hanson assessment, non-mandated busing. We are queuing up questions perhaps for the district when they come to our meeting next Tuesday. Communications, we have none. Upcoming meetings, we have a meeting, as I said, next week with the Superintendent Samanak and representatives from the school committee. So then the annual town meeting is scheduled for July 27th at 6 p.m. on the JV baseball field at the Whitman Hanson Regional High School outside. So I posted for next week and I posted for town meeting. I posted our FinCom for town meeting at 5:30. So if there's something we need to dispense with prior to the start, we'll have a half an hour as we usually try to do before town meeting. Okay, so questions on the agenda. What's the will of the board? Is the board prepared to reorganize? Would you rather wait till we had the full contingent? As I said, Scott wasn't able to make it. We could wait till next week. We could even wait till town meeting.
I think
So,
everybody should be here.
Does that seem to be the concurrence? We'll wait till we have a full contingent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think we're well within the guidelines by waiting. So.
Yep.
Okay. So that moves us to the annual town meeting handout. So everybody should have got a copy of that by email in advance. So it's 2 pages, but it's going to be a 1-page handout. Again, this is in draft form. We're going to open it up to conversation to see if there's anything we would like to change, modify. I guess, for discussion, we obviously will be presenting our position based on our vote for this particular article. So just a little more history, I guess, for this particular topic is the email that was forwarded to the Board of Selectmen following Kathy's email, and the board should have gotten copies of both. And basically, I'll read Kathleen's email to me. I've attached a copy of my analysis of Jeff Samanak's documents G and H that I believe the selectmen are misinterpreting. I believe we should communicate with the BOS to question the use of the $211,000 figure. This is a tough enough budget situation without showing up at town meeting with misinformation that has been allowed to percolate through social media for weeks ahead of time. Kathleen. So from that, I forwarded to the selectmen. Selectmen, please review the information forwarded from Finance Committee member Kathleen Otina regarding Article 7. And again, I believe there's enough information coming from Hanson that there's enough misinformation coming from Hanson at this point. Please provide your collective reply as soon as possible. Thank you, Rick Anderson. So I have yet to hear back from any of the selectmen or the town administrator. And just so you know, I did forward the communication to our town accountant, Ken Lytle, for his interpretation as well. So nothing back from anyone, which is fine. Selectmen are meeting tonight. I'm sure this is on their agenda. You know, it's obviously our hope that the information that is disseminated to the taxpayer prior to town meeting is based on fact, so that they can make the decision that they feel is best. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kathleen. If you want to just give an overview of the handout as you have it drafted.
Oh,
John,
okay.
can you put that up on the screen, perhaps? Or?
The handout? Yeah, I think so.
So more or less, Kathleen, it's somewhat of a paraphrasing of the article that was posted, published in the Whitman Hanson Express with the tables.
Everybody see it?
Yep.
Yes. These tables are not truly related to what we wrote in the article in the Whitman Hanson Express. This is comparing the two possible ways of calculating the assessment as provided by law, and then the impact that accepting Article 7 would have by adopting the so-called 50-50 compromise. So it's really, for people, it's a really complex concept, and people are still not truly conversant in the way things are calculated. But the only two ways that the budget can be calculated right now are the agreement method, which is per pupil, and the statutory method, which we all know how to do these days. In order to do the 50-50 compromise, the regional agreement has to be amended. And so Article 7 is asking town meeting to approve an amendment to the regional agreement. And the three tables that I have compiled here, actually I think there's 4 of them, shows the costs to the taxpayer of following the agreement method, the per pupil, the statutory method, which the school committee has voted to use and the FinCom has voted to support, and then the 50-50 compromise, so that town meeting members will understand the cost to the town of Whitman if the voters at town meeting choose to adopt the amendment. And on the bottom of page 2, it's the comparison using fiscal 20, which is the budget actually that the school's operating on right now. And then the impact of using the agreement method, the statutory method, and then the proposed modified statutory method. So that I know it's a lot of numbers. Some people like me love numbers, and other people sort of shy away from it, but at least the information is there. And the asterisks at the bottom tell the voters, agreement method requires both towns to agree. The double asterisks, that's the default method. We don't even have to vote. If there's no vote, then the statutory method is the way it goes. And of the triple asterisk, it requires both towns to agree to use this. So even if Whitman votes to approve Article 7, Hanson 2 nights later has to also approve whatever number article they're calling it.
Okay, any questions for Kathleen?
No, nice homework, Kathleen. Really
Yeah,
nice homework.
Looks good.
Good job.
Thank you, guys.
Excellent. All right, so I think it's important at this point in the discussion is perhaps to discuss what Hanson has proposed for their town meeting. John, you could probably pull that document down now you can. So I don't know if anybody had the opportunity to go online and pull down the town meeting warrant for the town of Hanson. But it's pretty interesting, you know, how this blissful marriage is coming undone here a little bit. You know, if you look at what the town of Hanson has proposed for their Article 5, which is what we were just discussing, what the town of Whitman will be voting on, they have written into their warrant to see if the town will approve the amended Whitman-Hanson Regional School District agreement on file with the town clerk or take any other action in relation thereto. So in their explanation, the Whitman-Hanson School Committee has proposed an amendment to the existing Whitman-Hanson Regional School District agreement. The final amendment's wording will be distributed before town meeting convenes. This article, if approved, will change the district's agreement as outlined in the proposed amendment.
Well, the reason why they're saying that is because the Whitman Town Council and Frank supplied a revised amendment, what do you want to call it, agreement to the schools, to the school district. And the school district has yet to consider that. They've discussed it, and the school district sounded like they were going to approve Whitman's version of it. And they were waiting for Hanson to get back to them because they had sent it over to Hanson to say, what do you guys think? So I'm thinking tomorrow, this district will probably discuss which one they're going to use, either the one that they originally sent out or the revised one that the Whitman Town Council sent back to them. So I think that's kind of why Hanson's worded like that. I mean, that's kind of the way I've seen it
Right.
discussed online. Anyway.
And there are a couple other, you know, possibilities as well. By Hanson not using the same language as Whitman, I don't know, I did send an email that Frank forwarded from the town administrator in the town of Hanson, and basically it said that the board wanted to hold out hope that there may be a way to change the agreement before town meeting. So you know, they're holding out hope that there's going to be another amendment or some further negotiation possibly before town meeting. So my estimation, this is not good enough for the town of Hanson. And really, from the discussions that keep taking place within the selectmen's meeting in the town of Hanson, I don't really think they're all in support of having a one-year transition. So, you know, as much as this has been hyped that this is a, you know, the solution for a transition, I'm not so sure that even Hanson's on board with this amendment. So, I mean, obviously it's wait and see. But what we have an obligation to do is prepare our presentation for town meeting. And I think Kathleen's done a great job with this handout. The handout actually, you know, is helpful no matter how you are voting on this particular article, because it explains how the assessment is figured. And really the district's pages are more confusing, you have to admit. The way that they presented the information, I'm not surprised that, you know, there's been some confusion with the Board of Selectmen and how they interpret the final cost to the taxpayers. But I think this committee, and correct me if I'm wrong, is in agreement that the cost to the town of Whitman is in excess of $500,000. So I think that is what we have to present to town meeting, the fact that this board has voted not to support this warrant article, Article 7. And my guess is that there's going to be an opportunity to go to the mic more than once, I would say. So the Board of Selectmen obviously are going to make their case for the majority opinion that they have supported, and I guess we'll go from there. Anybody else want to add anything to the discussion? Kathleen.
I just have a question on when the warrant is printed, what is the actual vote of this committee? I know we took a vote some time back, and my recollection that we voted no, but it was a 1-8 vote.
It wasn't 1-8, John, right? John was the only one that dissented. Are you still of that opinion, John?
Yes.
Give information.
Well, I mean, I'm still of the opinion that the school needs that budget.
Mhm.
And if the school doesn't get a budget, if the budget doesn't pass both town meetings, what they've requested, and that is what they've requested, then the literal stuff's going to hit the fan for the schools.
Well, the
And
town of Hanson
That's true.
has already said that how much money they can commit, and it's
Right.
nowhere near their share.
well, that does. I mean, their town meeting can change that as well. I mean, I'm again. My issue here is that if the school doesn't have a budget, they're in big trouble. And, so am I, everybody, I mean, even on this committee thinks I'm not for the statutory method. I am 100% and always have been. My point now is that the school put forth an offer for, an agreement that included a discount. And I think that's what people here are forgetting, is that the school put forth a recommendation for an agreement that included them in investing $600,000 of their own money. That basically gave us a discount of the assessment. And it's outlined, Kathleen has outlined it in the email that she sent to the selectmen. It's like $320,000 for us and whatever. So, I think what this committee needs to consider is the fact that what we're doing now is we're taking that discount that was part of that package agreement and saying, well, we're not going to agree to the way that you're assessing us, but we're going to take the discount. So we're basically taking the discount, even though we're not going with their 50-50 split. So, that I just have a problem with the schools not getting a budget. That's where I'm at.
Okay. All right. We'll go around Rosemary and then Al.
They reduced their assessment. They didn't give us a discount. They came back with a different number. And it was to not, and if we're looking for a partnership and a partnered relationship, as far as going through the statutory method, it's in the school policy. It's written in the school policy. So, and it's been for a very long time. So we're asking for the school to abide by their policy, and we're asking for the law to be followed, and for the school to have a budget. I'm a finance committee member, but if you were to take my I don't put my personal belief in. This is how finances roll forward. I have my own personal belief. I might vote differently as a citizen, but we need to put the financial facts forward, and every vote I take will be financially based. I agree, the schools need a budget, but it wouldn't be because of Whitman that they don't get it, and our recommendations are financial. If we don't make financial choices, then Whitman doesn't have a finance committee, essentially. And just like if school committees make choices that aren't child-focused, it seems like there's a lot of Hanson Finance Committee members, but very few school committee members or Whitman Finance Committee members. That's my concern. We all have our jobs, we all have our guidelines, and if I am asked what is the best financial choice, have we paid our fair share and percentage to meet, our demographics? And we have with the statutory, and we're paying a little more than $500,000 than we should be paying under the amounts that are fair. So, and by the policy of the school, by the law, it's a failure on the part of others and other departments, not ours. So we still have to recommend responsibly, financially responsibly. That's all.
Thank you, Rosemary. Al, you had a comment, question?
Yeah, just a comment. Maybe the school committee has not submitted a budget. Is that correct, Rick?
The school committee is recommending a budget. And I think it's important to note that the finance committee is supporting the school's budget. It is
Okay.
just not supporting the method of assessment. I think that's very important to take
Okay.
out.
Let's make it
And I
clear.
think one other thing I just want to mention too is, back to the Hanson town meeting warrant. Article 23, I don't know if anybody has read that, but that's very telling too. And this speaks to our relationship. If somebody is going to vote based on having a great partnership with the town of Hanson, when they petition the court to look for legislation to be adopted, I mean, they're looking for a home rule petition. I mean, to me, this is something that a partner wouldn't do if someone had a vested interest in continuing a partnership with the town. So I think as we consider, or the voters consider, and we consider our recommendations on what we are asking voters to do, we should think about all of the dynamics here. I mean, they also have just formed a deregionalization committee, and I think that's important too, because if Hanson is focused on moving forward with the recommendation for deregionalization, I think that should play into the mind of the taxpayers on why that $500,000 of their tax money is going to be diverted to that town. So that's just something else to consider. John.
Rick, I agree with you 100% on that one. That Article 23 is a slap in our face. That's one of the reasons why I'm now kind of, I'm weighing, that I'm trying to see, what's best for the school versus what Hanson's doing with that. I mean, it's pretty clear that's not going to go anywhere in the House. Right the first section of it says, notwithstanding Chapter 70 and Chapter 71. Well, guess what? Chapter 70 says you can't do that. So, I doubt Cutler's even going to read it. He probably won't even present it, but you never know. Maybe he will. But still, that's mind blowing, honestly.
Yeah. Thanks, John. Rosemary.
I think you might have missed the part where they have already filed legislation to support Hanson. Both Brady and Cutler put in legislation, and if I'm mistaken, the legislation that they did was that they don't have to break out the state aid anymore. It's calculated, but they're not legally required to break out by town, although it's allocated that way. So we almost are forced to use statutory, or end up with what happened to Kathy, where they deny that the math is right, even though it is correct. I am disappointed in Mike Brady if he's behind that. I really thought more of him. Honestly, Cutler, he services his people, but it definitely does not hold towns accountable to paying for education. And I would hope that people would rethink it. I did contact Ellison Sullivan's office. They haven't got back to me. I guess she's recovering from a motorcycle accident, because it's in conflict with the Section 1 of the law. And I can't believe that it was passed. But.
Okay, thank you. Dave.
The horse has already left the barn, but I just want to caution everyone when, as part of this finance committee, that when we speak on warrant articles, and especially warrant articles of other towns, that we're not using language that could overly show influence in a certain manner.
Yeah, I think the concern you have is one for a ballot question. I think our town council has ruled that, the issue that the town of Hanson had with our information published in the newspaper was related to our position regarding a warrant article, not a ballot initiative.
No, with all due respect, please don't put words into my mouth. I said what I said, and when you do things like that, even if it's, like I said before, it may not be against the rules, but it doesn't shed a good light on this finance committee. So please be cautioned when you use that type of language.
Okay, thank you, Dave, for that
Thanks,
warning.
Dave.
We appreciate it. We don't want to be under a dark shroud of suspicion, so. Go ahead, Chuck.
I just wanted to get back after hearing John's thoughts on, and it could kind of ring true about the school doing a discount on ED&D. But over the last number of years, they typically, unfortunately or unfortunately, they have taken out of ED&D to support their budget. Now, ED&D is that kind of like their version of free cash, what's left over, so to speak?
Kathleen, you want to give excess and deficiency, it's ED, yeah, and Kathleen.
Is that an accurate assessment?
Yes, the excess and deficiency is similar to the town's free cash, and it has impacted the bond rating of the Whitman Hanson Regional School District. They've been rated, rated from a AA to a AA minus, and it will impact, I believe, the amount of money it will cost the town of Whitman to build a new middle school, unless this is resolved before that vote is taken and the bonds are floated.
Yeah. So my thought was, everybody's trying to get some skin in the game to get the schools what they need as we support this budget. You can look at the schools saying, all right, we're going to help out a little bit, although they tend to do that anyways. My first thought was, do they have too much in their budget? They just seem to have a lot of ED&D, but if they need it for bond ratings and stuff, that's another story. That's why myself, I struggled with my vote, but there were some decisions that the selectmen have made over the past few months, which, let out some other monies. If everybody had a little bit more in there, I would have been more willing to take that olive branch or reach apart and maybe get it done. But to see a lot of other decisions being made that people aren't really putting a lot of skin in the game too, I just wanted to let it know that had an impact on my vote. Thank you.
John, did you want to add something?
Just a little, the E&D is similar to free cash, but it's also their emergency fund. So if, for instance, during the year, somebody with a special needs moves into town and, there's a big cost to it, that's the fund that they would go to be able to pay the tuition or whatever of the special needs. The state does recommend that it should be around 5% of their total budget, and it's way under that. So, but that it is similar. The school committee has the authority to spend out of E&D. We're different with us with free cash. The voters have to vote for it at town meeting. So it is a little different, I guess.
All right. Okay, thanks for the clarification.
And the most recent position, I guess, for the school committee with respect to E&D was the fact that they voted, I think a couple of weeks ago, to take money that was returned from the transportation budget that wasn't used due to the COVID-19 and voted to utilize that money for curriculum in lieu of the fact that would have been returned to E&D at the close of the financial or fiscal year, I think. So, So all of those things do play into how the E&D is being utilized, and maybe, maybe not so well. So that's something to consider. Go ahead, Rosemary.
Sort of harken back to when we took out of stabilization and did extreme things to fund the schools. I don't remember such an effort for Whitman. And that concerns me on the level of partnership. I think when I first started looking at this and I came to you, I was worried about how they were spending. For Duval they have such low spending at Duval per student that our students weren't being treated the same. All of this combined with this really excessive outstretching for one community over the other does worry me. And that's why I have a hard stance, because long term, that's got to end. If our citizens are going to be treated, our children are going to be educated fairly within this system.
Good point, because I hearken back to that $850,000 very often when we're talking about, that or when we're discussing the town of Hanson's ability to pay. Because, that's what it comes down to. The town of Whitman made some difficult financial decisions. Back when we were in a very difficult financial position, we used stabilization funds to pay our share. I don't know. Are we getting the same commitment? I think these are questions that would be, I think, good to ask the district when they come to our meeting next week. So everyone had really good points. Anybody else want to chime in on this issue? So again, I guess we're, still preparing for, ultimately, we're going to have to return to Article 2 and make a recommendation on line item 175 for the operating expense, which we haven't voted, and also for the non-mandated busing line. So hopefully we can, formulate some questions that we can ask Jeff and the whichever representatives of the district come to our meeting next week. Yes.
Can we reconsider where we pay for the middle school feasibility study? Can we have a contingency on the ballot question that if the school budget doesn't pass and we have to go to 112, could we use that money to then do the feasibility study or pay for part of the feasibility study? And I'm asking that because I'm worried that that our rating isn't as good, and we will owe more money borrowing through the school, possibly.
As opposed to taking the money from free cash, is that what you're saying,
Well, I
Rosemary?
mean, we'll have a large amount, and if we put it into other budgets and we're rolling those forward at that larger amount, we're going to throw off everything. So trying to find a place to put that money that still sort of is within the school genre,
I think that is an important consideration to have a contingency plan. John?
Yeah, well, I think we have to be careful though, because in my opinion, what's going to happen is the budgets aren't going to pass and the school's going to be on 1/12, and it's going to go 1/12 all the way to December 1st. Then at that point, the DESE comes in, and who knows what DESE's going to do. DESE could set it at the $55 million budget. They could put it a little higher than, who knows. So if we say, oh, well, we're going to take that money and we're going to go spend it somewhere else, and then DESE comes in December 1st and says, no, yeah, you guys need that $55 million budget, and we've taken that money and transferred it somewhere else, then I think we're in trouble. So we have to really sit on that and be careful on what we do with that number.
But a
Good
school
point. Go
stabilization
ahead. What,
How about
Rosemary? I'm sorry.
the town stabilization for the schools. Each town can have its own school stabilization. Could we put that in our school stabilization fund for?
I think that has to be a vote of town meeting as well.
Yeah, that could be the contingency.
That would have to be on the floor. I mean, I know Frank was talking about putting money in stabilization anyway.
Well, we definitely got to do that, yeah.
I would do it towards the school exclusively. That way we're rolling forward in those recommendations with Madden. I want to keep to those the best as possible.
Okay, good point. All right, Kathleen.
Just briefly, I agree with Rosemary. I'm concerned that $570,000, if it's voted, if the article is voted, then we know where it's going. It's going to Hanson. And if the article is voted down, then it stays in Whitman's coffers. We aren't spending up to the maximum levy limit in that case. So that $570,000 should go someplace that is associated with the schools, so that this time next year, fiscal 20, well, not this year, fiscal 22, so in about 4 months, we'll be working on 5% of the $15 million figure. I don't want to go backwards with the schools. I empathize with John. I'd love to vote with John on Article 7, but I think that we have no indication that Hanson is going to accept anything from Whitman, and so I can't support Article 7. I can't support the 50-50. If I thought Hanson was on board, if we ever had a pleasant meeting with them, which we have never had, then that's when a troubled marriage can come to some reconciliation. But there's never been, it's been finger pointing at us from day one. And so I'd like to protect the 570 to keep the school budget at a level where we're not going to be backtracking in future years.
Okay, good point. Well, we do have another meeting next week, so I would expect that we roll this idea in front of the town administrator and the Board of Selectmen, so we can, have a backup plan on exactly how that money will be saved in our coffers. So, all right. Anything else with that specific warrant article? If not, I'd like to move to, I did email the committee the information from Lisa Green regarding the Community Preservation Act. Does everybody get the documentation? So on the warrant, we went by this article, and if anybody can refresh my memory, I thought it was because there were someone in the committee was looking for an amendment on town hall floor that would insert a dollar figure. This is the article. I mean, Article 6, the way it is written, is it, and it's not going to be amended. This is the way it's going to be presented. So I would recommend that the committee make a recommendation in advance of town meeting and have it published in the warrant, unless somebody feels differently. To make a recommendation to be published in the warrant. So if you want, I'll take a minute and just read the cover letter from Lisa Green regarding the Community Preservation Act, just maybe as a refresher. Just briefly, the first paragraph and the last paragraph. The Community Preservation Act was established in the year 2000, providing communities that have adopted the act the ability to raise funds specifically for historic preservation, parks, recreation and athletic field upgrades and restoration, open space preservation, and community housing projects. Currently, 176 cities and towns have adopted the program. If Whitman were to follow the other 176 cities and towns, Whitman will stand to raise approximately $182,000 to $190,000 annually to fund CPA qualified projects. In addition, Whitman will receive an annual match of approximately 13.9% to 23.9% of the surcharge funds for a distribution of approximately $25,298 to $45,410 from the state CPA trust fund. The match rate is dependent on the revenues collected each year and the number of communities participating in the program. All communities that have adopted the CPA and collect a minimum 1% surcharge are guaranteed a disbursement from the Community Preservation Trust Fund. The 1% is a surcharge on the annual property tax bill, with the average amount ranging from $32 to $79 per year. The surcharges vary based on the assessed value. So in her email, she did attach some of the projects that communities have completed using the CPA funds. So given that discussion, Al.
I thought we voted on this, Rick. I strongly urge we vote no. I believe we voted no before, and I vote no.
Well, that's good. Your position is now known, but we did not vote to recommend.
Okay. I thought we did.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we didn't vote. I strongly support this, actually. And if you look at the list of projects, some of the local towns that have adopted it a number of years before us, specifically Pembroke, seems like they've been reaping quite a few benefits. Small money to go towards the town. Yeah, is it a little tax increase? Yeah, but I think it's you put some money in, and we're going to get some money out.
Any examples, Chuck, on that?
Yeah. Do you have the email with the?
No, I don't. I don't.
Al.
Oh yeah. Well, we got just a couple off the top. Abington. It looks like Abington adopted it maybe 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. Abington Island Grove Bridge, Island Grove Pond Study, pickleball courts.
Do we have numbers attached to that, though, Chuck? I'm not being a wise guy, but
no, there are no numbers.
That's the problem. I see. There's no numbers attached to it. And do they give a tax figure of what the tax from the town paid? The townspeople?
Well, I think Rick. What was
it's 1% of your tax bill.
Well, okay, all right. I'm not happy. I'm not happy with that at all.
Anywhere from $32 to $79 a year.
Right. But I'm dead against it.
Okay, Rosemary.
Moving on.
And maybe Dave could help with this one. My concern with this is will it disrupt our matrix? We're going to have two different groups determining what's being built or where we're investing money. And something seems like that might cause a problem. These projects aren't done for free, where they just give some money towards them. So when we're looking at this list, the amounts that we're paying, we're also pulling out of our matrix. And I don't know if Dave could speak to that. I had asked Lisa, can the committee, there's supposed to be a separate committee, can that cooperate directly with our, with Dave's committee? I haven't gotten back, nothing was in the letter about that. If anybody could help me understand that, because I do worry about money kind of throwing us off track being used. I do like the idea of more state aid though.
Dave, do you want to reply? And then Kathleen.
I don't know the answer to that, but you make you bring up a good point, is that will the funds from that article, if passed, will they have to adhere to the same process of spending for capital that we do today, meaning that it has to go through town meeting approval? I don't know the answer to that, and that's the point I brought up before when Lisa and Frank brought this before us, is that you have this other committee that is now working, individually on capital projects when you already have a building facility capital committee. I don't know the answer to that. That's one reason why I would recommend not voting for it.
Well, could we get the answer before that? Because if we could have that cooperate with your committee, I would vote for this. I think maximizing state aid, maximizing money from the state is ideal, as long as it is part of our long-term plan, that it's not disruptive to it. And so I would like to see if Lisa could answer or somebody else could answer that question.
We never got those answers.
Okay, and just for the makeup of the committee, that information was within the text of Lisa's email. And basically there's 5 core members. 1 member from the local conservation commission, 1 from the planning board, 1 from the historical commission, 1 from the housing authority, and the park and tree DPW superintendent. So that's the makeup of the committee. That helps answer the question, but absolutely, if you want more information, Lisa said she would be more than willing to answer additional questions at next week's meeting, because obviously she's meeting.
That's right, but none of those people are in Dave's committee. And
that's correct.
And we've got a matrix. We've paid a lot of money for it. It's giving us a great path forward. This could be disruptive. Can we merge this with Dave's committee, or at least add an extra person or do something so that we can stay on course?
Well, don't you think that maybe that committee would come before the capital committee as a presentation, independent of that committee? Just as a suggestion. Go ahead, Kathleen.
Just 2 points. The first is that I believe it's a 1% tax, but the first, and I don't have the dollar figure, the first $150,000 of your house valuation is excluded. I made that number up. But
it's 100,000.
I think you're correct. Yeah.
It's 100,000 excluded. It's not 100.
Yeah.
And the second is, I don't see a direct conflict. I'm not for or against this yet. I want to think about it some more and go to the website that Lisa has provided us. But I think the magnitude of these projects doesn't begin to compete with the type of dollar figure that Dave's committee considers, like building a middle school or building a DPW is not going to be funded by the kinds of money that the CPA would have. So I hope we're not going to act on it tonight. We need more information, and it may well be in our best interest to adopt it, but not tonight.
I'm just glad that we did not wait to make a recommendation based on the questions and comments that we have provided in this discussion. If we had waited for town hall recommendation, it probably wouldn't have been as beneficial as this discussion and tabling it to next week. John.
Yeah, I'd like to display one of the handouts that Lisa gave us, if that's okay with everybody. Let me make sure I get the right one. This is page 3 of the Community Preservation Act monetary information. If you look at this column right here, this is the column that it says the surcharged raise. So for instance, Abington, their taxpayers paid $391,000 on the surcharge. The state gave them back $98,000, or they got a distribution of $98,000 and matched another $98,000 over here. So basically their taxpayers paid $390,000 and they got money back of about $180,000. The math does not look very promising to me. If you look at all of these percentages, the disbursement is under 30%. There's only one in this column right here. There's only one that was 43% in Carver. We're asking our taxpayers to support all this money over here, and they're only getting back less than half of it to use for projects. It just does not make sense to me at all.
Thank you, John.
Seems like a pyramid scheme to me, honestly.
So John, can you go to the other document? Because there's another document that shows what Whitman is paying. See, Whitman still pays into the CPA.
No, Whitman doesn't pay into it. There's a amount of money from the real estate transactions that goes down to the Plymouth Registry, I believe. And even when we asked Lisa about this, there was a lot of money getting paid in, but that amount doesn't come right back. That just goes into the coffers. That goes
Right.
into
We already paid, John. We pay in already and we have no access to
we
it.
don't pay in. The real estate
I-
transactions pay in. So when houses are sold in Whitman, a percentage of that transaction goes down there. But that doesn't mean we're going to get it back. And it's the transaction. So where it comes from, the people buying a house are paying in. Yeah, I believe that's what it is. But we're never going to get the money back that's getting paid in. I mean, it's real clear on this form. I mean, I'm with you, Al. 100% no, in my opinion. Not even close.
It's
All right,
real.
does it-
It's real.
All right, does anybody else have any other comments or, like I said, I think it's a good idea that we table it to next week where Lisa could
Yeah.
field the specific questions that were
I'll
raised.
say that those charts do open the eye a little bit. I don't know if I saw them before, but throwing those numbers up there does shine a little bit of a different light.
It's a permanent tax, guys. That's all it is.
All right, very good. So we will revisit this next week unless anybody has anything further they want to add to Article 6. So again, my hope is that we can make some recommendation before the warrant is published, that's all. So we don't have to do it on town hall floor. Because we're going to know how we're going to vote by next week, I would certainly imagine, right? Okay. That's it for that. Okay, so on the agenda under new business, we do have an invoice from the Association of Town Finance Committees. Basically, this is our annual dues. Last year, we did not pay our dues because of the difficult financial condition we were in. The invoice is for annual dues from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, in the amount of $210. And just to give a little bit of an overview from the communication from the ATFC. The ATFC has kept dues level funded this year. We hope this will allow you to keep your membership current and continue to participate. We are taking the next year to do an in-depth review of the Finance Committee handbook and see how recent developments throughout the Commonwealth need to be incorporated into the book. For now, members can download a digital copy of the 2017 edition at any time. So I think, it's a pretty good resource. They're offering some online classes, Zoom-based classes coming up. So it's something to consider. What's the will of the committee? Do I have a motion?
I motion, yes.
Okay, we have a motion to pay the Association of Town Finance Committee annual dues in the amount of $210. Second?
Kathleen will second.
Okay, further discussion. Anybody? Okay, around the table, John,
Yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Rosemary,
Yes.
Al,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Thank you very much. We'll create a warrant and get that bill paid. That's it under new business. Under old business, we don't have any subcommittee reports. Dave, anything from the Building Facilities Capital Expenditure Committee?
No, we're not going to meet till after town meeting.
Okay, very good. And RAC, who knows what's going to go on with that. So, yeah, and we covered the warrant article 6. So Whitman Hanson assessment and non-mandated busing, I only put that on under old business because obviously these are questions that hopefully can be developed for our meeting next week with the district. Unless anybody has anything they want to bring up under that heading at this point. Rosemary. You still mute.
This is not just about the busing, it's about the district. Is that what the assessment, the whole district? Because I wanted
Yeah.
to ask about the CARES Act. Had a really nice conversation with Tim O'Brien, the commissioner, today about, I had some questions on the differences between how Plymouth County and the state are dividing up their money, and some of the rules to how we're doing it, because apparently we're doing it through the towns, and he says that everybody should be doing it the same, and but he did go over some of the requirements, and I was wondering, since the region is a separate, how are they, I'd like to find out what are they asking for, if they're making a list, are the school committees making a list of what they need, what's going on with it, and from Frank, I want a breakdown of how we're requesting. I want to make sure that we're requesting for each department in a fair way, essentially, that we're not missing anything that might need to be covered per department. That's all.
Excellent. Yeah, I did have a brief conversation with this. Josh happened to be in the town administrator's office, and we were talking about that specifically. And some of the things that other towns were purchasing were off the charts. There was one town of Hanover, I believe, that bought 2 vehicles with the COVID reimbursement money. So I don't know how that's going to fly in an audit, but so all I'm saying is, their communities are all over the map with this. There's a budgeted amount that Whitman is eligible for, and it's in excess of $1 million, and that we haven't spent anywhere near that much money.
It's 1.3 million. We've spent. It's broken down right on the CARES how much we've requested.
Yeah.
I don't know what's out there. That's why I wanted to know what was being requested. I'm wondering if the vehicles were that they had just 2 vehicles per police officer, and that, if it relates to keeping people safe, maybe they can do it. But if they can do it, we can do it if it applies to us as well.
Yeah. Hopefully it says COVID on the doors. Go ahead, Al.
Right, no, just say, is there any oversight for that for the our committee on that situation?
As far as the finance committee goes?
Finance, any finance.
That's my point.
We have
Yeah.
oversight with.
I think that's why Rosemary is bringing the question to the table. So
We ask the selectmen what the money's coming in and how we're going to work this out.
yep.
They're grants essentially, so it's basically asking them what they're requesting and ensuring that they're requesting and reaching out to all departments and
Absolutely. School department needs it too, every department needs it,
And we've seen some situations, if I remember, where they were sort of left out and not seen as part of the town, and since the town needs to include them for them to get their aid.
Every department needs it. DPW needs it too as well.
Every single department. Yep.
Everybody needs it. So we spread the wealth out.
Great point, Rosemary. So I guess it would be the direction of this committee to add COVID-19 as a placeholder to the agenda for next week and subsequent meetings, I would suggest, if that's your oversight. I think it's important that we do have a voice in that. So good point. Anybody else? COVID-19, anything?
Chuck.
Chuck, go ahead.
Not COVID-19, but A while back there, when the Council on Aging new director was in question, I remember we had thought about funding that line 210, maybe to the experience of the person that they had lined up coming on. And Frank made a point, he wanted to post the job because that person was no longer taking it. And he felt we needed to post it with a good, whatever the normal increase to hopefully attract some experience Council on Aging. Recently, I learned, and maybe you guys know, somebody in Town Hall has gotten the job, and they'll be leaving one department and moving up to that department. I believe they've been with us for a long time. Great worker from what I hear. But I was just wondering the experience level there and what their thought is, is on the salary.
Yeah.
I can't help but go back to water department a couple years ago and see somebody boosted up and you know, for big boost. So what are they expecting as far as pay? You know, what are the person's qualifications, how experienced, whatnot. So, and in my mind, I'm just bringing this up to you guys. I was wondering if we should get some more information or reconsider that line 210 salary.
Okay.
Second
very
that
good.
one.
All right, so the individual came from the clerk's office, so I think that's a great point. We'll put that on the agenda as well and get the information from the town administrator on what the expectations are with the salary and how the gap is going to be filled in the.
All right, thank you. One other thing,
Yep.
if I may, this is kind of goes off the board. It's still finance related, but I don't know if you guys saw. I'm sure somebody saw that Weymouth has, and I know it's not the same thing. We're all in different situations, but Weymouth has secured $250,000 to help them get their full-day kindergarten program started
Yes.
by Senator Patrick O'Connor. Actually, Greg Denton works for him. Greg has often in the past reached out saying if the representatives and town administrators, if they reach out when the budgets are being done at the state level. There's earmarks, there's other monies out there. And after early talk about some of our representatives and, you know, what the towns are wanting them to do, what they're focusing on about this legal stuff with the schools, I'd like to see them focus on getting us some more money.
Yep.
You know, they're our representatives. So that really shined a light to me that, you know, why can't we get that?
Please, Chuck, bring that up next week when we're sitting with the superintendent and the school district. So,
Okay.
Dave.
Are we gonna have a chance to review the report on the FinCom for the annual report?
Annual report. Annual report isn't done till the end of the year for the FinCom?
So for town meeting, both the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee submit a report, as it's called, a report on the FinCom.
Are you talking about opening statements for town meeting?
No, if you look at every annual report, there's a report from both the Board of Selectmen and a report from the Finance Committee. Typically, you know, in my past history here, we've had the chance to review it, discuss it, edit it, and collectively come to a consensus of what we want that information to be, especially because it's submitted on behalf of every member of the Finance Committee.
And
Right.
we do that, yeah, every year we do that, but it's done in December, Dave.
Yeah,
It's the end,
That's what I
end of the
thought.
fiscal year. It's the end of the calendar year, not the end of the fiscal year.
It's the annual report. It's in the annual.
And it's due in December to be published.
I don't remember having a chance to discuss that in December.
Oh, we
Oh, we
definitely
did.
did.
I
Yeah.
remember,
did.
yeah. Right when I came on it, we
The
talked.
same thing
Yeah.
for the opening statement, or is that just going to be yours as the chair? Just out of curiosity.
It's a report on the Finance Committee, and it's usually about a page long, and it's submitted on behalf of all of us.
I
Yeah, and
can send
it's-
out, just as an opportunity, I will send out the last 2 years' reports. And basically what happens is I do a draft and I bring it to the committee. And we have more than 2 weeks to make edits and change and add anything you want to put. So I'll send out the last 2 years' reports if that helps you to take a look at. But
And
it
if I-
definitely starts in January and the report ends in December every year. It's a
Right,
report-
and then it gets printed and it gets printed in the annual report, which gets distributed later, just like,
Right.
So
all
the
these
annual
things.
report you're going to see at town meeting is for the fiscal year 2020.
Right.
That we
I just don't recall-
collectively worked on last year.
All right.
Yeah, we did. We've done it every year. Actually, we've done it every year with Rick, the former chairman that I was with. I don't remember getting it done before, but when you came on, you did get it done.
We do a draft and then we talk about it. So.
Yep.
So yeah, it's a good thing. Sometimes, just to be perfectly honest with you, it's sometimes difficult to think back what we've been doing since January, especially this particular year, So it's good if you think about something that you want to include in the town report, have a place to keep notes. And when it comes time to draft the report, I would suggest that everybody, put their 2 cents in for sure.
Less work for you.
Yeah, I agree. Yes.
How about opening statements? Will you be just doing that yourself, or will you be allowing the review as you?
Well, we've done that before too. Drafted a summary and then we talked about it at town meeting. This particular year, every year we don't do an opening statement. We have in the past when there have been significantly difficult financial situations or unique situations like this year. So I would suggest that we do an opening statement, and just basically outline the activities of the committee. Much to Dave's point, this committee has done quite a lot in the past year to prepare ourselves for this town meeting. We have never worked through the month of June on any budget for any year that I can ever remember. And even going back, Ralph, you're not usually meeting with the finance committee in July, right? Typically. So
It ends by the middle of June.
yeah. So this is a very unique year. I would suggest we do opening remarks. So I could draft something up before the next meeting and send it out, and then we can work on it together. Because I believe the last time we did an opening statement, I brought the draft to the annual town meeting and distributed it for feedback. So it'd be better if we had another extra weeks for sure. So I can work on that this week. If someone has any, suggestions, certainly send them along. Okay, very good. Thank you for that reminder. Opening statement, I'm going to write that down. Okay, on the agenda, I believe we have exhausted all of the items that were on the agenda. We're certainly open to anybody who has anything that they would like to bring up under new business. Okay, we did set, like I said, the next meeting is posted for 7 o'clock on Zoom. John, thank you very much for continuing to host. We missed you when you were gone the last.
I know, I didn't like the way the video, I like this checkerboard look, and the video was like everybody getting the highlights and everything. I was like, whoa.
Well, yeah, so he came in and he just promptly left. At least you stay with us.
Well, I have to, don't I?
Well, we appreciate it, let me tell you.
Yeah, he gave us a big push, and then he
Yeah, well, that's normally what we do for all the other committees. Like when they're on the selectmen, they show up and they just kind of hide in the background and try not to be noticed. So
Right. Okay, Samantha, anything that you need to tell the committee about meeting minutes?
I'm almost finished with the last set of meeting minutes. The end of that meeting, there was a lot of great information. I want to make sure I capture it accurately. And this set will be done before next meeting.
Excellent. All right. Thank you very much for the work you do as well. All right. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Kathleen will make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, round the board, John,
yes.
Kathleen,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Ralph,
Yes.
Rosemary,
Yes.
Al. Al, we got you out of here by 8:15. You got to say yes. You're muted. All right, we'll take that as a yes, and I vote yes. Thank you all once again.
All
See
right.
you all next week.